Hello friends! Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to shoot this video today. Today we are talking about, as a pageant judge, what I look for when crowning the winner. So if you have never watched my channel before, you just made your way to this video, hello, my name is Cassie. I am a former Miss Idaho USA. I competed at Miss USA in 2017. Now I love being a coach and being a judge for different state programs. It is my favorite thing in the world to do because you just get to see all these amazing young women doing incredible things and just play a small part in their story. So let's dive into it. So I'm gonna start with just an overview of what I look for in a title holder. And I asked you guys on social media what specifically you wanted to know about judging a pageant. So I'm gonna answer your questions at the end, so make sure you stick around and catch those as well. So what I look for, I've got a few things here. So number one thing that I'm looking for is confidence. So judging for Miss USA, I'm looking for confidence. The motto of Miss USA is confidently beautiful. We're looking for someone who knows who she is and truly owns it. So this goes for every phase of competition. Honestly, even some people get so hung up in swimsuit on what the body looks like, but I have given some great swim scores to girls who maybe weren't in the best swimsuit shape or not the most toned or anything like that, because they walked on that stage like they owned it. Like, just take for example someone like Ashley Graham. She is someone who's just broken boundaries in the modeling industry. She may not have been the typical model shape, but when you see her step on a stage, it's like fire emojis everywhere because she's owning her body, she's owning who she is, and she's confident in herself. So that is number one, what I'm looking for, a confident woman. Number two, so this kind of goes hand in hand, but I want someone who's not just beauty, she's also brains, like a beautiful combination of the two. Now, this is where I think my personal judging style differs from other judges that I've judged alongside. Some people are just like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. But in her interview, it was like surface level answers, no depth, nothing. Then you put her in top 5. That's the girl, let me tell you, that bombs her question because Judgy McJudgerPants over here has put her through the whole way just based on this alone. I can't do that when I'm judging. I'm not judging it based just on your pretty face because it is so much harder to crown that girl and get her ready for nationals because you are doing a whole lot of deep work to get that girl to get to know herself. What does she believe? What does she stand for? Like, these are deep things that are hard to work on if you're gonna have someone who's competitive at nationals. She can't just be beautiful. She also has to have the brains to back it up. So what do I mean by brains? Does she have to be like an astrophysicist or something? No, she does not. But communication and depth is what I am looking for. So especially in the interview, when you are talking to this girl about issues or just her personal preferences, things like that, I need her to have an opinion and be able to articulate it. I don't have to agree with that opinion, but she has to be able to communicate with me why she believes that, her experience, what she's doing about it, and just have really well-rounded, deep answers. So I'm looking for someone who knows who she is, knows what she believes and why she believes it, and what she wants to do with herself, her title, her life in general. Just a great, well-rounded woman. And it's one thing to know those things, but then also to be able to communicate them effectively. Because as a title holder, that's what you're doing. You're out in the community, you're meeting and greeting, and I need to make sure that you are going to be able to have a conversation with the 4-year-old that thinks you live in a castle and the elderly veteran at the Veterans Day parade who thinks you're just a pretty little skirt. Like, I need to know how you're gonna react in all these different situations. Or maybe if you were like me and you find yourself in an interview with someone who doesn't believe in the validity of pageantry and thinks it's outdated? Can this person eloquently explain to this person the importance of pageants in today's society, why she competes, what she's learned from competing? That is why I focus so strongly on the beauty brains combo and the communication and depth of the answers, because I know those situations she's going to get herself into, and I need to know that she is going to be a good representative in those situations. So last and certainly not least, this is something that I'm so passionate about. She has to be a good role model. Oh my goodness, it is baffling to me how often this is overlooked. She needs to be a good role model, because even if she doesn't win Miss USA, she's still spending a year going around her local area, going around her state, having all these interactions. This needs to be a woman that young girls, young boys, anyone can look up to, and that is going to hold herself to a higher standard in every area of her life. I won't go into that here because I could go off for hours. I will link my good friend Danny Walker. I'm sure all of you guys know her channel. She just recently did a video of like what not to post on social media as a queen, as a potential title holder. I'm gonna link that video down below because I just was praise handsing the whole time, because it's 100% how I feel as a judge. Because when I'm stalking that social media, I'm trying to make sure that if I had a little sister and she looked up to you, would I be okay with that? Would I be okay with her idolizing you? Or are you going to be a poor example of what I would want for my younger sister, for my daughter, something like that? So those are the main overarching themes of what I look for. Another thing I will say, coming from a judge, interview is number one to me. Everything starts in the interview. I know in some ways that's obvious because that's usually your first impression of that title holder, but it goes more than that, because again, I'm putting a lot less emphasis on what's on stage and a whole lot more emphasis on who you are as a person. So I would way rather crown a girl that has a stellar interview and her walk needs some work, because we can fix that walk in an hour or two of practice. It is a whole lot more work to totally overhaul a girl's presence, speaking ability, depth of thought. That's a whole different ballgame. And me as a judge, I am working for the organization. I'm working for that pageant director. I'm trying to make it easy on them. I'm trying to give them the best title holder possible, because after I leave that weekend, they are stuck with that girl for a year. So I better have done my best to make sure I'm handing them someone that is really ready and needs the least amount of preparation. After interview, I generally have my favorites, I guess you could say, or my standouts. So I'll kind of have those in the back of my mind, and then I'll really be keeping an extra eye out for them on stage to see if they're kind of meeting expectation, falling below, or how that goes. Of course, you could have someone who is stellar in interview, terrible on stage, just like you can have someone who's wonderful on stage and terrible in interview. So I'm taking all of that into consideration and trying to find someone who was one of the upper level interviews and is workable on stage. One of my biggest pet peeves in interview is the girl that is just trying to say what she thinks you want to hear. Ladies, please, if I never hear, I just want to be authentically myself. One more time. No, stop it. Stop saying that. We know that. We want you to be authentic. An authentic person is not selling us on how authentic they are. They're just being authentic. So don't get so focused on the buzzwords and trying to say the right thing. I'm looking for you, your opinions, and your thoughts. If you come into the interview and all you're saying are these little blurbs or snippets that I feel like you just cut and pasted from an Instagram caption or a magazine article that don't give me any depth or insight into you, I leave that interview and I'm like, I don't even know what to put for that girl because I still don't know anything about her. So that is my biggest pet peeve in interview. I know you'll hear it a million times, but be yourself, have an opinion, and don't be afraid to share it, please. So something to really work on for your interview is figuring out what makes you unique. Now, when I say that, what I always hear back from people is like, oh, well, I'm just so normal. Like, I don't really have anything that makes me unique. And that's not true. Like, every single person is unique. So I'll give a few examples of things that I focused on when I went to Miss USA. So for me, I grew up in a tiny town, less than 3,000 people. So, I've got the small town girl aspect. And also in that small town, I was one of very few minorities in my town as well, being half Hispanic. So those are two things that really influence who I am as a person, that make me unique, and things that are passionate about. I love being, just a small town girl. I love being proud of being a mix of a million different things. I think that's what makes our country beautiful. So those are a couple things that I really focused on when I was filling out my paperwork, just to give the judges, a better sense of who I am. Along with being Latina, I talked about spicy food on my bio, and that was one of the things I ended up talking to the judges about a lot at Miss USA, because it's just kind of one of those fun random facts that if you get me talking about spicy foods, we're gonna be here all day. And that's what makes your interview fun, is when you add in those unique details that people are gonna remember. I had a great talk with one of my judges about ghost peppers, and I turned him on to ghost pepper cheese. And so it's just like little silly things like that, where you may be thinking, okay, there's so many small town girls, like being part Latina is not that unique. But when you put it all together into your bio and you're picking out small things like that, it's what the judges are going to remember. So focus on what makes you unique, focus on what you want to share, what parts of your life you really want to share with the judges, and put that into your bio. It's hard to come up with questions from a bio that has no personality, because I'm going to try and focus my questions more on your bio, probably than political things, depending, of course, on the state and what the directors are asking for. But I'm going to focus more on the bio because, again, I'm trying to get to know you. So if you don't give me anything that really stands out on your bio that I'm interested in asking about, then I'm probably just going to start throwing you my current event questions, and you probably don't want that. So make your bio interesting, make it something that I want to read, and that kind of excites me, and I'll be focused way more on that, and that's a subject you already know about. Don't so fully complete the questions that I have no reason to ask it. I've seen bios before where it's a simple question like your greatest success in life, and you write in 3 sentences fully explaining the whole thing, and I'm like, okay, well, that was great, but now I have no reason to ask about your greatest success because you've outlined it so fully. So maybe just do a single sentence, something that's really gonna grip me, kind of like an elevator pitch, like, I made my company 6 figures in the first week I worked there, like whatever it is, and then let me ask, like, wow, how did that happen? Then you in the interview can tell me about that great success story. So don't fully complete the answer to the point where I don't want to know more. Always leave me wanting more. So I think we've covered the general gist of what I look for when I'm looking for a title holder. I'm looking for someone who's going to be confident in the interview, who's both beauty and brains, who can communicate fully, who's a great role model, carries herself with confidence across the stage, knows what poses she's doing, and if I've picked correctly in those top 5, all 5 of my girls are gonna know how to answer an onstage question, because spoiler alert, I'm not putting through the girl that bombed her interview just because she looks pretty on stage in a dress, because I'm not trying to set her up for a fail moment in top 5 question. Now switching into question and answer mode, I asked you guys on my Instagram to submit questions of what you want to know from a judge's perspective or what it's like judging a pageant. So question number 1, ranking the top 5, what goes through your mind? So this is a great question because I think it's something people don't understand unless you've been a judge. So like I said, interview is number one for me personally. That's not the same for everyone. But from my experience, it all starts in the interview. I have my top handful of girls. I mean, sometimes I have 6 girls from interview that I'm like, I'll crown any one of you based on how the rest of the night goes. And then there's other times when it's like, it's really just between these 2. So it depends how many of those make it to the top 5. Looking at the whole night, the whole program, every phase of competition, who is going to be the best title holder and the most competitive at the next realm. So it's not all about the final 5 question, it's about the entire time, who has been steady, who's going to be the best title holder. What would you do differently looking back now that you've been a judge? So this question especially kind of goes back to that top 5 situation. So when I got to my top 5 question, I would be so confused at like how the rankings shook out, because I was like, well, her question was better than her question. Like, why did she place higher than her? And like, I didn't really understand that, but I didn't take into consideration, because me as a competitor, I thought, okay, when we get to top 5, slate is wiped clean. Like, we're all the same. Now it's just based on this question. And that is not the case. It is still cumulative all the way through. So I may automatically have my number 1 girl that kind of skirts all the way through and that gets crowned. Or I may have to pick a different favorite because my actual favorite didn't make the next cut. Like, you're always figuring things out as you go. So as a competitor, I would use that knowledge to know that top 5 question does not make or break you. It's just one small part in your whole experience. So if you nailed your interview, you nailed swimsuit and evening gown, and you get to top 5 and you're like, oh, darn, that could have been better. Like, don't be the girl that gets back in line and starts crying. You haven't lost it yet. The judges are going to look at the whole scope of your competition, and they're gonna judge based on that. If you had a stellar interview, they know that you can communicate well. They know that might have not been your best answer, but maybe you had 10 best answers in interview, and they're gonna focus on that over your one onstage question. So don't beat yourself up so much on top 5 question. The judges have been seeing you this whole time. The final question is not the end all be all. How do you prepare for judging? Is it just the paperwork, or do you stalk social too? It depends on the system, but generally they do encourage you to do some light social media stalking. So yes, I stalk your social medias, so make sure they're clean. Again, I'm linking to that video that Danny Walker did talking about what things not to post on your social media. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't even have to say this, but if you're a teen, please don't post underage drinking. Please don't be underage drinking, but don't post it. Like, I don't care if you put it on your Snapchat story because you think no one can see it. Girl, we see it. So anyways, the obvious ones, no underage drinking or illegal activity of any kind. That would be great. I feel like it's really cool nowadays to post photos where it's like a group of you and you're like all flipping off the camera. Not a good look, especially for a title holder. Please do not post those photos. If you're tagged in them, remove yourself from them. That is just not a good look for someone we're hoping to be a role model for our organization. So don't do those things. I'm also kind of gauging it as a backup to get some character development on you. Are you someone who is posting photos of all the volunteer work you're doing? Are you posting no makeup selfies to promote natural beauty? Or is every single photo a sexualized selfie? Like, that's kind of what I'm using it to gauge. So also make sure that your social media accounts are reflecting your character and what you would be like as a title holder, because yes, I am watching you. Do you get paid? So that again depends on the pageant system. For me, in my experience, it all depends what organization you're working with. So in some, they may like pay for your flight and your hotel and your food and your rental car and just like foot the bill on everything. And there's others that maybe they'll just do food and hotel, but you have to pay for travel. It really just depends on what pageant system, what pageant director. It's all very specific. But generally, it's like comped services like that. It's not like getting paid a lump sum to come and judge. Do you get favorite girls? How do you stay unbiased? Oh, that is a good question. I do definitely get girls that I meet in interview that I'm like, oh, Miss USA would love that. Or like, ooh, I can picture this nonprofit that she's talking about, like the photos, the videos, the opportunities she could have with this crown, with this platform. And I'm kind of mentally planning out what her year could look like. And so that can lead you to have, I still don't want to say favorites. I just think that I think through those things and start ranking girls a little bit it's kind of like based on potential. Like what kind of potential does this contestant have going forward and at the next level? How do you stay unbiased? I honestly think that just helps coming from someone who competed. I would obviously want my judges to be unbiased, so I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that I'm staying unbiased as well. If you watched my pageant vlog, me and Nate Triano, when we judged the Oregon-Washington pageant, anywhere we went in the hotel, we had blinders on. We would not even make eye contact with anyone at the hotel, just in case it was a contestant. We didn't want anyone thinking that we were playing favorites with them based on who we said hi to or anything like that. So just really protecting yourself and making sure you're only coming in contact with the girls during judged portions, so you're not coming up with any other content that could influence your decision, if that makes sense. Wow, so that was a very long-winded video, but I hope it was helpful for you if you're judging in a pageant. I definitely think this is a very broad, overarching video, and I definitely want to break down more specifically and do a video on maybe just what I look for in interview and specifics on that, what I look for swimsuit and evening gown, and share some like tips, tricks, best practices, and then, maybe some pet peeves, because there's definitely some of those as a judge that can be a huge turnoff that I think would be helpful for you to know. And then top 5 question, how to prepare, what to focus on, and how to make your top 5 question as strong as it can be. Last but not least, if you are someone who needs a little bit more help preparing for your interview or the upcoming pageant, please let me know. I actually coach as well as judge programs. I'll make sure to link down below to my coaching page on my blog, or don't hesitate to reach out to me on social media at Style by Cassie, and I would be happy to help you get prepared for your next pageant. That is what I have for you today for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me. I hope this was helpful for you, especially if you're competing in a competition. Please comment down below. Tell me what pageant you're preparing for. I would love to be able to watch, follow, and cheer you on in your journey, as long as I'm not going to be one of your judges, and then I'll come stalking for you about a week before the program. But anyways, please, if you love pageants, if you love fashion and content of that nature, please subscribe to my channel. My goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. So please subscribe, thumbs up this video, comment down below if it was helpful, if you learned something new. I think the next video I have coming up will be my Miss Universe predictions video. I am so excited. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys next time.